Meeting of the Planning Board is open for tonight, and we'll begin as we do with public comment. So if there's anyone here from the public, I think I recognize everybody here. I'm going to say it anyway. If there's anyone here from the public who wants to comment on something not on the agenda, this is the time for anyone who wishes to speak. Please come up to the microphone and give your name and what you're speaking on. And with that, we can move forward. The minutes, Paul?
I recommend approval of the minutes of February 14th. That's correct.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. I'd like to modify the agenda before we go any further. The first is to move an announcement up from the bottom of the agenda to the top of the agenda, if that's okay. The announcement concerns, remember, this board worked on recodifying the bylaws and worked hard on it. Town meeting approved it. It went up to the Attorney General, and we were confident it was going to be approved, and it was not. And we were embarrassed, and we went back to work, and we revised it, and we submitted it to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General has now approved it. So that is the announcement. We now have approved, recodified bylaws. So this is a really good thing. Good for you. Good for us, good for the town, better for everybody. And anyone who doesn't have a recodified bylaw will really want one, because they are much improved and much easier to understand.
Let's just make an announcement now, in case anybody's here for
In
that.
case anyone is here for that,
I
but it's true.
have a question on that.
All right, don't wait till we get to it. The other is I want to, agenda change I'd like to
My
make.
question was on the bylaw, the one you just.
Oh, on the bylaw?
Yeah, the one you just mentioned.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, which question?
I'm just wondering, we always call it the bylaw,
Yeah,
but is it in only 240? Or did we do all the other bylaws?
no.
We did every
our
single
bylaws.
bylaw? No, wait,
Just 240.
just 240, so it's a
Zoning bylaw.
misspeaking to say 240, because there's a lot more bylaws than just 240. 240 only applies to zoning.
So what we all should be saying is recodification of 240 of the bylaws.
Of the bylaws, not the bylaws.
Well, now that it's officially approved, I'd be glad to say that.
Okay, I just wanted,
Or the zoning bylaw.
or just
You
the
can say the
zoning
zoning
bylaw.
Bylaw?
Because there's many bylaws that affect us that we didn't change.
There are a lot of them.
And we'll be talking about one tonight, and that's why I'm bringing
It's
it
on your
up.
mind, fine, okay. Thank you for that. Also, along with that, for those, and I know there are here specialists in that area, you'd want to pick up a copy of that, because the AG sent along comments that are interesting and should be looked at. Okay, so they're now approved. Other changes to the agenda. First, we're going to move the two items that deal with Blue Moon Sea Grill so that they're in a different order, and put the one that deals with the special permit first, and then the site plan, because there's no point in doing the site plan unless we've done something about the special permit. So we're just flipping the order of them. That's happening there. And the other thing that I would like to announce now, in case you're here or listening for just the business about the 70-unit workforce housing on Main Street, that will be continued. So if you came to speak on that, that won't be happening tonight. So with those changes, we can go forward.
You want us to put a date on that to, it's
When we
continuous?
get to it.
Right, so you're just making an announcement of that for clarity, and then we'll get to that agenda item later.
We'll get to it when we get to it.
Okay.
Okay. So first, we have an A&R, and approval not required. The applicant is Dover Mill LLC. Plan of land to reshape Lot A and Lot 0 with no change in area located at 433 and 0 Davisville Road. We have seen this very, very recently, and we are actually not really reopening it because it was discussed, it was approved, and this change is for conveyance purposes only. It's relabeling the plan. So I'll open it to discussion on the planning board if you have any comments on that. Anybody? No. In that case, we can move along. We could
no.
recommend. would you
We
move
have
an
to, yeah, we have
endorsement?
to move that we endorse this plan that you mentioned
Yeah,
without regard to buildability or bylaw
Zoning compliance.
zoning compliance thing.
there's a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's approved. Okay, now we can move on to the first of the, no. It's Samuel Pekowski, site plan review application, on which we had already closed the hearing. We had made a decision. We were waiting for that decision, and it's here. And Bob, how's your voice tonight?
We'll see how long it lasts. Let me pull it out of the folder here. Okay. I gotta go to the next page. Okay. Okay. Motion. I make a motion to approve the application of 284 Hatchville Road to construct a one-bedroom accessory dwelling unit. Findings. The accessory dwelling unit proposed at 666 square feet will be 10% of the principal dwelling. 2, the accessory dwelling unit is proposed to be a one-bedroom, and the main dwelling unit contains 4 bedrooms. 3, the site plan appears to show adequate parking for the proposed ADU. The plan shows a 3-car garage as well as a parking area labeled for 3 guest parking spaces. 4, the application meets all the requirements found in Section 246.6B, formerly Section 240-38.13 of the zoning bylaw. Conditions, the plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Pursuant to Section 240-2.1C, formerly 240-183B of the zoning bylaw, no permit for full or partial occupancy shall be issued until the planning board is satisfied that the conditions of this approval and predecessor approvals have been met. Pursuant to Section 240-61B, formerly 240-38.13C of the zoning bylaw, either the principal dwelling or accessory apartment must be owner-occupied for a period of 7 months in every calendar year or owned by a nonprofit organization or government authority whose purposes is to provide affordable housing. Section 3, pursuant to Section 240-6.1B, formerly 240-38.13D of the zoning bylaw, either the principal dwelling or accessory apartment may be rented, but not both. The owner-occupied dwelling cannot be rented while owner is absent. Rental period shall be no less than 6 months, and weekly, monthly rentals, so-called summer rentals, are expressly prohibited. Neither the principal dwelling nor accessory apartments shall be used as commercial accommodations at any time. 4, pursuant to Section 240-6.2 240-6.1B, formerly 240-38.16C of the zoning bylaw. An affidavit shall be submitted annually to the building commissioner, signed by the principal owner, attesting that the principal dwelling or accessory apartment has been owner occupied for a period of 7 months and not otherwise rented as set forth above. 5, the project shall not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights of way, and shall meet all applicable standards set forth in the building code as determined by the building commissioner. 6, upon completion of the construction, the applicant shall post the address for this residence per section 99-1, affixing of legible numbers required, time limit for compliance. The applicant shall contact the engineering division for address assignments prior to issuance of an occupancy permit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Apparently not. We're ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Now, we come to the first of the Blue Moon items. This is, the applicant is Blue Moon Sea Grill Incorporated, special permit application to allow lot coverage of 73.8% to accommodate the restaurant dining deck proposed along the southeast side of the existing building located at 159 Main Street. The public hearing has been closed. We had requested a positive motion. We received a positive motion. It sounded as if you were still going strong there.
Okay, let's see. Let me find it first.
Oh, I can do it.
Okay, yeah,
Referred-
could you
Yeah,
do it?
sure. Thank you.
I move that we approve the application of Blue Moon Sea Grill, Inc. to allow for the lot coverage to exceed the maximum allowed threshold at 159 Main Street under section 240-69D with conditions. Findings. Specific to section 240-69D of the zoning bylaw. 1, lot description and zoning for number 159 Main Street. 8,276 square foot lot. Business 1B1 zoning district. Currently contains 5,046 square foot structure containing 3 commercial businesses. And in parens, Lighthouse Station at Woods Hole, the Gilded Oyster, and the Reel, it's REEL Station Company. No off-street parking is available on the property. So those were 4 bullet points. 2, project description overall. Bullet point 1, develop a 130-seat Class 1 restaurant with a 91-foot by 14-foot outdoor deck. Bullet point 2, 74 inside seats, 56 outside seats on the deck. Bullet point 3, the deck will have a fully accessible ramp allowing access to and from Main Street, a secondary set of stairs at the back portion, and access to the inside of the restaurant. 3, other. Bullet point 1, the new use, and in parens, Class 1 restaurant, is a by right use in the Business 1 B1 zoning district, and the construction will be limited to the 159 Main Street portion of the property. Bullet point 2, the site cannot accommodate off-street parking, therefore the applicant is seeking a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals for a full parking reduction under section 240-14.1F, and in parens 3A, formerly section 240-107B. Bullet point 3, the proposed lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking will increase to 73.8%, which is more than the maximum allowable 70% in Business 1 B1 zoning district. Bullet point 4, the applicant provided the required information pursuant to section 240-69D of the zoning bylaw, and the planning board has determined that information to be adequate. Oh boy, I'm going to start losing place here. Bullet point 4. The proposed plan shows the construction of an outdoor deck over a, in quotes, way, as labeled on the proposed site plan. The board has no ability to resolve the private property dispute in this matter, and understands a building permit may not be issued in the absence of unequivocal property rights. The board defers that building permit decision to the building commissioner. Bullet point 5. The applicant provided the board with 2 recorded instruments entitled, in quotes, Notice of License to Occupy a Way, end quote, and, quote, Notice of License of a Way, end quote, with respective book/page numbers of 35422/5 and 35405/158. Each states the term of the license runs concurrent with the lease term through January 31, 2032. Is subject to up to 2 renewals/extensions of 5 years if extended with the lease term, and states it authorizes the licensee to install a handicap ramp and construct, maintain, and use a deck in the license area. The applicant represented to the board that the licenses were duly executed by abutters with recorded rights in the way. Bullet point 6. The property's dumpster will be relocated and enclosed by a stockade fence as shown on the proposed site plan. Bullet point 7, access to the rear of the building will occur over the property at 131 Main Street, owned by the, is that Deben or Devon? Deben, Inc., and through a license agreement is limited to trash removal only. Bullet point 8, the Cavosa Disposal Corporation provided a letter indicating that they would be able to accommodate the trash removal needs of the proposed 130-seat restaurant with the same trucks and with the same frequency of collection trips as currently in place. Bullet point 9, the applicant secured a certificate of appropriateness from the Historical Commission on November 17, 2022. However, will likely need to amend said certificate with the addition of the 6-foot-high deck wall and gate. Findings. Specific to Section 240-216, in parens, special permits of the zoning bylaw. A, adequacy of the site in terms of size for the proposed use. The planning board finds the size of the site to be adequate. The Business 1 zoning district is a unique area that does not have requirements for minimum lot size, frontage, or setbacks in the zoning bylaw. In terms of those requirements, this site is no different than other lots in the district. B, suitability of the site for the proposed use. The planning board finds the site suitable for the proposed restaurant use. Downtown Main Street currently has a vibrant mixture of restaurants, commercial spaces, and residential units, all existing together in a compact and walkable area. This use complements that existing character. C, impact on traffic flow and safety. The planning board finds the impact on traffic flow and safety to be acceptable. As required for this special permit pursuant to Section 240-69D of the zoning bylaw, documentation submitted concluded that the trips generated for the lot from the proposed restaurant and existing retail use will not exceed 4 trips per linear foot of frontage. Additionally, there will be limited use of the rear of the building, trash removal only, where the traffic flow and safety impact to nearby residential use would be the greatest. D, impact on neighborhood visual character, including views and vistas. The planning board finds no impact on the neighborhood visual character, including views and vistas. The board finds that this restaurant use will improve the aesthetics of the existing building and will enhance the economic vitality of the downtown area by encouraging more pedestrian activity. E, adequacy of method of sewage disposal, source of water, and drainage. The planning board finds the method of sewage disposal, source of water, and drainage to be acceptable. The property is served by the municipal sewer and water services, and drainage conditions will be improved as part of the project. As required for this special permit pursuant to Section 240-69D of the zoning bylaw, a professional engineer has provided documentation indicating that stormwater runoff from the site will not increase following development by more than 10% in a 10-year storm, and that soil loss rate will not be increased by more than 10% following development. The board finds this submission to meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw. F, adequacy of utilities and other public services. The planning board finds the site to have adequate utilities and other public services. G, the effect of the proposed project on the adequacy of the supply of affordable housing in the town. The planning board finds no effect on the supply of affordable housing in town. Therefore, given the above and the conditions to be imposed below, the planning board finds the application for a special permit to increase lot coverage to 73.8%, over the maximum 70% allowed, will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this chapter, and that the proposal will not have adverse effects which overbalance its beneficial effects on either the neighborhood or the town. Conditions. The plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Pursuant to Section 240-138B of the zoning bylaw, No permit for full or partial occupancy shall be issued until the planning board is satisfied that the conditions of this approval and predecessor approvals have been met. 2, the applicant shall obtain an approved street opening permit and post any required bond with the engineering division prior to start of construction. The applicant shall complete the work as approved by the engineering division in the street opening permit. 3, the project shall not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public right-of-ways, and shall meet all applicable standards set forth in the building code as determined by the building commissioner. 4, construction of this project shall follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions document. 5, access to the rear of the building will be limited to trash removal only as specified in the license agreement with Dayton Incorporated. The applicant shall return to the planning board for modification to this special permit if said agreement is terminated or modified in any way. 6, at no time shall any delivery of goods or needed services in support of the proposed restaurant occur at the rear of the building. Delivery shall be limited to the hours between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. 7, all construction operations for the on-site work should be maintained on the property, including, but not limited to, material storage, construction vehicles, and contractor parking. 8, the special permit shall run concurrent with Blue Moon Sea Grill, Inc.'s lease term or its use by the applicant, and in parentheses, Blue Moon Sea Grill, Inc., whichever is shorter. As presented by the applicant, the lease term is through January 31, 2032, and includes up to 2 5-year renewals or extensions. 9, pursuant to Section 240-221 of the zoning bylaw, this special permit shall lapse 3 years from the date it is granted if a substantial use thereof has not sooner commenced except for good cause.
But you just
The
read the whole,
second one,
No, I just,
for both of them.
I just read special permit.
just for the special permit, I'm positive.
Well, there's
Is
a lot
there
of
a second?
similars.
They're very similar,
Yeah.
but they're different.
A lot
We're
of,
looking at their second.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I saw,
We're getting to it. Is there, I didn't hear a second.
second.
Thank you. Discussion by the board.
I have a
What
question.
do you want to say, John?
On number 8, special permit, run concurrent with the lease. Is that common? I thought the special permit was with the property.
The applicants were the lessees, they were not the property owners. I do not know if it's common or not, but this is responding to the people who applied.
I understand that. I just don't know if it's common practice. I thought special permits ran with the property, not with the tenant.
We worked closely with town council's office to craft some of this language, so they have approved this language as written.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments or questions? Bob?
I just want to say that I appreciate the conversation I had with Jed, because was really uneasy about some of these aspects of this project, but he put my mind at ease, and I feel confident in my vote tonight.
Okay, over here. Pam?
No, all set.
Paul?
No comment.
Pat? I have a comment I would like to make. I'm aware that this is really disappointing to some of the people who paid a lot of attention to it. We really studied it hard. I think that we heard you and we listened to you. And I very much appreciate the effort that the staff has taken to draft the whole finding so that every item of the standard is addressed here so that it would be really clear. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I actually regret disappointing you. Disappointing people is always regrettable, but it's by right use there. And this is what we have decided. So, in that case, we can move forward. Next, that
Madam
was...
Chair.
We have to take a vote.
Oh, sorry, then we vote. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, so, 6-4, 1 against. Now we'll move forward. That dealt with the special permit. Now we're going to deal with the site plan application. So, on site plan review, I don't think we have, I think we do need to close that.
Well, there really isn't any closing of the meeting for site plan review, but you do have a request to extend the decision deadline. You may just want to, for clarity's sake, vote that in, allow for the extension of that decision to be tonight.
Yeah, it was extended to tonight, so I didn't realize we had to vote for it because we're doing it.
Well, it's just a procedural thing, because as of right now, the decision deadline has lapsed. So
okay,
by
then,
allowing this, you're able to
A
do.
motion to approve the deadline of February 28th?
I move that we accept the request to extend the deadline to February 28th for the site plan review of this.
Second,
Second.
all in
Question.
favor?
Question.
Paul,
It's extended to what date?
today?
28th, today, February 28th.
28th, this is the deadline. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that's 7-4. All right, now we're ready for this. So we do have also a draft motion that we can act on.
I'll read it if you want.
You want to read it?
No,
Okay,
I'll
good.
read it.
Wait, I think we have another volunteer. Paul?
Oh, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
Not volunteering.
Oh.
He just said Bob didn't like what I did.
Oh,
Oh, Bob, go ahead.
okay, motion. I make a motion to approve the application of Blue Moon Sea Grill, Inc. to develop a Class 1 restaurant with outdoor deck at 159 Main Street under Article 39, Site Plan Review with conditions. Findings. 1, lot description and zoning for 159 Main Street. 8,276 square foot lot. Business 1 B1 zoning district. Bullet 3 currently contains a 5,046 square foot structure containing 3 commercial businesses, Lighthouse Station at Woods Hole, the Gilded Oyster, and the Real Island Company. 4, no off-street parking is available on the property. 2, project description overall. Bullet 1, develop a 130-seat Class 1 restaurant with a 91-foot by 14-foot outdoor deck. Bullet 2, 74 inside seats, 56 outside seats on the deck. Bullet 3, the deck will have a fully accessible ramp allowing access to and from Main Street, a secondary set of stairs at the back portion, and access to the inside of the restaurant. 3, access and circulation. Bullet 1, the property's dumpster will be relocated and enclosed by a stockade fence as shown on the proposed site plan. Bullet 2, access to the rear of the building will occur over the property at 131 Main Street, owned by DeBone Inc., and through a license agreement is limited to trash removal only. Bullet 3, Cavosa Disposal Corporation provided a letter indicating that they would be able to accommodate the trash removal needs of the proposed 130-seat restaurant with the same trucks and with the same frequency of collection trips as currently in place. 4, parking. Bullet 1, the site cannot accommodate off-street parking, therefore the applicant is seeking a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals for a full parking reduction under Section 240-14-1F 3A, formerly Section 240-107B. Bullet 2, the applicant has committed to, as a condition of approval, to make a good faith effort to prohibit or minimize employee parking on Main Street within Town Hall Square and the other nearby downtown public lots during peak business periods. The applicant has agreed to monitor employee commuting and parking and to implement policies to achieve that goal. 5, landscaping. Bullet 1, landscaping plan provided by the applicant includes the addition of a concrete pad with a bicycle rack, a new sitting bench, the replacement and relocation of an existing sitting bench, the removal of a walkway with stairs and replacement with landscaping, the closing off an opening in the existing wall, and the removal of the existing chain link fence on the wall and the addition of new plantings. Bullet 2, all the proposed landscaping will occur on town property, therefore the applicant intends to seek a license from the Select Board for permission to implement the landscaping improvements. All details of the proposed improvements, type of plantings, bench, and bike rack materials, future maintenance, etc., will be included in that license request. 6, site and building design. Bullet 1, the proposed project introduces another restaurant on Main Street, which is in keeping with the existing area while improving the existing landscaping features. Bullet 2, the applicant secured a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Commission on November 17, 2022. However, will likely need to amend said certificate with the addition of the 6-foot high deck wall and gate. 7, other. Bullet 1, the New use, Class 1 restaurant is a by right use in the Business 1, B1 zoning district, and the construction will be limited to the 159 Main Street portion of the property. Bullet 2, the proposed plan shows the construction of an outdoor deck over a way as labeled on the proposed site plan. The board has no ability to resolve the private property dispute in this matter and understands a building permit may not be issued in the absence of unequivocal property rights. The board defers that building permit decision to the building commissioner. 8, Town Department Review, Bullet 1. The Town of Falmouth departments have reviewed and commented on the above-mentioned site plan, and the planning board finds that the applicant has adequately addressed the comments. 9, Building Code and Zoning Disclaimer. Bullet 1, the planning board review does not include building code and zoning review, and the board defers to the building commissioner. 10, Conformity to zoning bylaws. Bullet 1, the applicant conforms to all the requirements found in Article 39 of the zoning bylaw. Conditions. 1, the plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Pursuant to Section 240-183B of the zoning bylaw, no permit for full or partial occupancy shall be issued until the planning board is satisfied that the conditions of this approval and predecessor approvals have been met. 2, the applicant shall obtain an approved street opening permit and post any required bond with the engineering division prior to start of construction. The applicant shall complete the work as approved by the engineering division in the street opening permit. 3, the project shall not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights of way, and shall meet all applicable standards set forth in the building code as determined by the building commissioner. 4, construction of this project shall follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions document. 5, under completion of construction, the applicant shall post the address for this residence per the town code, section 99-1, affixing of legible numbers required, time limit for compliance. 6, access to the rear of the building will be limited to trash removal only as specified in the license agreement with DeBone Inc. The applicant shall return to the planning board for notification of the site plan review decision if said agreement is terminated or modified in any way. 7, at no time shall any delivery of goods or needed services in support of the proposed restaurant occur at the rear of the building. Delivery shall be limited to the hours between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. 8, the applicant shall implement policies to prohibit or reduce employee parking on Main Street, within Town Hall Square, and in other nearby downtown public parking lots during peak business periods. Let's see. Page 3. 9, the applicant shall seek approval from the select board for the proposed landscaping located on town property and shall include the necessary details, type of plantings, bench and bike rack materials, future maintenance, etc., within that request. 10, all construction operations for the on-site work should be maintained on the property, including but not limited to material storage, construction vehicles, and contractor parking.
Second.
Second, okay, board discussion. Anyone wish to comment? No? No? No. Then we're ready to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion carries. You all have copies of this yet? No? There are probably extra copies here.
We've got extra copies here.
Might be good to share them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just hearing it once is probably
Yeah.
not gonna do it. Yeah.
We've got 3 copies, but we can
We can
certainly,
have some of these copies,
certainly.
because I have it electronically, if you don't mind.
Yeah, mine, I don't need any of mine.
I've got mine, and I think they can have these.
Yeah. Wait a minute, I had it here.
Madam
a
Chair,
minute
can you
ago.
record the vote? You just said it passed, but
Oh, the vote was 7-0,
7-0.
unanimous.
First vote was 6-1.
6-1 the first time.
And here's one on the, if you need more copies,
Has my name on it.
there are copies here.
Does anybody want more copies? They're
Copies of the decisions here,
Mine has my name on it, but doesn't matter.
either labeled at the top, special permit and site plan? No, we don't need them.
Oh, it's one for each.
We have them electronically. Okay, next on our agenda is a public meeting item. The applicant is Michael Galasso, site plan review application for a 71-unit workforce housing building with a 973 square foot restaurant at 545 Main Street, and a continuance has been requested to March 28, 2023. Did you want to say something, Jed, about that?
Nothing other than just, meetings with the applicant have gone very well since the last time they were at, before the board. And so they're working on revising their site plans and filing accordingly. So they need just a little bit of extra time, so they've asked for an extension to March 28th.
Till March 28th.
Correct.
I move that we accept the applicant's request for continuance to March 28th.
Second. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That's 7-0 on that. Okay, good night. Now we have a couple of planning board discussions. The first is on the conversion bylaw. And Jim, I think you wanted us to know about this. Melinda, that was really a lot of work. Thank you for all of that.
You're welcome.
Much of it formerly unknown. So that was good.
We did notice one difference from the previous bylaw to the recodified bylaw for single residences only, A, AA, B, C.
Yeah.
In this, it doesn't mention that number of bedrooms are limited as to the same date of January 1st, 1980. The other zones such as B1, 2, 3, public use and general residence don't have that listed in the previous bylaw of the number of bedrooms. It's specifically the single residence zones. And it didn't transfer to the new recodified table for the.
So that will be continued over in the next printing.
We made a note of it, and it will be continued over. So the bedroom only affects residents AA, A, B, and C.
Say that again,
So for a single-family residence, AA, A, B, and C, those zones only, they can only keep the same number of bedrooms as of,
you're saying agricultural A, is that what you're saying?
no, residential.
Residential A,
A through C.
so does that really accomplish anything then?
That's just what we're talking about. You wanted to
Change,
talk
oh,
about
that's one of
change
the
it.
things,
This
okay.
is what, I'm just saying
I
what
was gonna
didn't,
say,
what didn't come over from the old bylaw to the
because
new
very
one.
rarely do you find a big old house with like 16 bedrooms.
Right. It's not allowed in agricultural
Okay,
zones.
all right, I understood.
Yep.
So we could change that if we wanted to, that's what the discussion is.
That's just
That's-
what we're starting
Yep,
with.
this is,
That's our starting
yep.
point.
this is just the basics.
I understood that.
Okay, so you want to go ahead with
Yeah,
your...
that's one of the things we need to talk about if we are going to actually increase housing. And I'm trying to think of the houses that I know that have been converted, and that I don't think they followed that bylaw.
So we talked to the zoning board of appeals today, their office. They rarely use this.
I know it hasn't been used in a long time, but I have a couple that I remember. And one in particular is on Clinton Ave, and it didn't have, I don't think it was an 8-bedroom house, but now it is. It's 4 twos. And it was approved in 1984. We should, I think that keeping the bedrooms the same is a very, if we're looking to take a big old house and divide it up into multiple units, most of the time, really big houses sometimes only have four bedrooms.
Well, saying you can't add a bedroom precludes an addition.
What?
It precludes an addition to the building.
That's different.
So you
See
say,
that?
if you can keep, so you can add a bedroom without an addition.
I think, okay, can I set a context for this discussion?
Yeah.
I think initially, correct me if I'm wrong, initially when this was passed, and it was limited to things that had been built or in existence by January 1st, 1980, the impetus for it, the motivation, was to save the big old houses around the green.
Absolutely.
And near the center of town, because they're handsome, they set the character of the town, but they were becoming difficult to heat, and it would be better if they had more uses, and it was more saving those buildings. Now, people are
Looking for housing.
converting dwelling units, converting big old houses into multifamily dwellings, because there's a desire for more multifamily dwellings.
Right.
So that the motivation behind seeking conversion has changed in other places, it might be changing in Falmouth, and that's why we're having the discussion.
Good, then I'm on the same page. That's what I'm
Right.
talking.
Okay, so it's
And
to add, potentially add to the number of buildings that could be converted in order to increase multifamily housing.
And I wanted to
Is that
add, yes, I wanted to, there's one other add that I would, this is a very difficult, if you've ever looked at a big old house and take your pencil through it and try to do this to it, it's really hard.
Because of the bathrooms.
Because, well, bathrooms, you can put as many bathrooms in a house as you want. Bathrooms aren't really regulated. You can have 10 bathrooms in a house. The bedrooms is what they really look at. But I was suggesting that we might want to have, as part of the permit, they could request maybe up to 10% additional building to accommodate,
Add to the structure.
add to the structure, a small amount.
So let's accumulate possibilities.
Just
One-
as a discussion, because
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you have ever tried to do this, but I have literally taken a look at a big old buildings and tried to carve them up and figure out a way to do it, and it's really, really hard. So to do it, and if our goal is to accomplish more housing, we need to make it a little bit easier.
Sort of like an ADU, in a way, we can add. No, I'm not.
No, but sometimes
comparing
they
it.
just need, I think you're allowed to make changes, and I'm doing it from memory, I'm sorry I haven't read the bylaw, I read it years ago, and I'm familiar with it. You're allowed to make changes for egress and stairs, and just to make the doors and everything work. You could, because you have to put a little bump out to get a doorway in
But
and
you
a
can
stairway.
change the exterior.
You couldn't, except for egress.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, they might just need a couple hundred square feet to get that extra unit in there and make the whole thing work. And why don't we consider it something like a 10%?
Okay, well, I'm going to make a list of
For
considerations.
discussion, I'm not
because
saying we
The
should
first one, the one that you raised in a prior meeting, is change
change
that
the year.
date.
Yeah, that has to change, yeah.
Okay, Pat,
Well, this is going to be a stupid question. Why, in the title, is it called SR-AA? Because I'm just looking at, that's what threw me off, residential AA.
Single residential,
Yeah,
SR single residence.
then why don't we have it up here too, under the zone?
Oh, I just didn't have it there.
Okay, because that really threw me off.
Okay.
How did we throw the S in there?
okay, Pam, I know you've done a lot of work on this.
So I started doing research to see what other communities have done through conversion of something that had not been in other words, some communities who had lots of apartments that converted to condominiums had to designate 25% for affordable housing units. So I would like to think about, and maybe it's if you can add 10% and get an extra unit, that extra unit might be an affordable unit. But I think there are ways of doing this conversion that could benefit affordable housing.
Let's add it to the list.
I'm sorry?
We'll add it to the list of potential changes that we could be thinking of.
Fine.
Did you want to add another one?
Well, I just have a comment. We're talking about converting these large structures in town. In many cases, they're tear downs.
In many
So-
cases, they're what?
They're tear downs, particularly if it's in a unique setting. They tear them down and put up a mega mansion. So I don't know if we're worrying about something that's really going to affect the housing situation here.
I don't know either.
Well, it was proposed as part of our housing summit, 8 years ago, maybe longer, that there was 3 areas of low-hanging fruit that we had to go after, and our board was challenged with dealing with those, and the accessory apartment was number 1, the multifamily housing was number 2, and the conversion bylaw was number 3. And we had housing experts from all over the state tell us this is what we should be doing. Now, if that's changed, maybe we should get another opinion, but I thought we were really marching down a plan.
Well, also, I think that the big hangup was we had to get rid of that 1980 date.
Right, and we always talked about that date had to be, if we wanted to go, that was really the thing, switching the date, because that would make many more houses eligible. And,
And also
What would the
changing,
date change to?
Well,
and also changing the zone where we could build these. If we, just for argument's sake, if we said, okay, we can do them in agricultural districts, you got all these houses, big houses on 2-acre lots, 1-acre lots. So that would open up, it wouldn't all be decrepit old houses that we're looking at.
So we're now up to 4, change the zones, allow it in more zones, and going along with that, the part I wanted to suggest to add is in business zones, where there are commercial buildings that have outlived their use, or that isn't what the landlord wants to do anymore, why can't they become residential under this conversion bylaw? Where the deal is they're keeping their same footprints, and now maybe they're not, but the footprint's there, so it makes it an easier thing to do, rather than, what else would you do it under?
so you're saying we don't need it in B2, because we've already gone, so or maybe B2 that's not on the sewer.
It's already allowed.
Conversion,
Right,
but not on the sewer.
But it's allowed.
It's already allowed. It's just not allowed in business redevelopment.
just down in business redevelopment, okay.
Oh, okay.
So we could allow it in business redevelopment if we wanted to expand that. That's a limited zone, though. I don't know if we need it.
Yeah.
It's pretty much
Very
just
limited.
downtown. It's restricted to a certain area.
We did it for a specific
Yeah,
reason.
it was done for a specific reason.
Okay, so that's really very narrow.
It is narrow.
Yeah. John, what's your thought?
I think these are all good suggestions.
You think what? I can't.
I think they're all good suggestions. I don't know about tying affordable housing into it. We're talking about trying to save older homes, but it might be a good idea.
Well, we're talking about not just saving old homes, creating more units.
We're talking also about creating more units, and we've been really focused on affordable units.
I understand, but not, we had a bylaw before where you could have an apartment at your house as long as you deed restricted your property, and it was very seldom used.
Yeah, that's why we got rid of it.
And my feeling is that if these are going to be rentals, not for sale, if they're going to be rentals, everything is affordable. We need everything right now. We need all types of housing.
That's right.
And if they're rentals, I wouldn't be a
think you'd kill it,
big
but
fan
I
of putting a
understand
deed restriction on a property. That's what I'm trying to say. But maybe it's a great idea.
Let's
and-
keep it on the discussion, but we'll talk, I'll talk more about that later, but I just thought tonight, we're really just setting the groundwork. We're not,
It's brainstorming
yeah,
tonight.
we're brainstorming.
brainstorming,
Let's
yeah.
keep it open.
And part of the discussion when we talked about this years ago was we wanted to try and make it so that the market could dictate what the units would go for. And if we had competition or they were limited by size, that would limit the rental costs so that they would be affordable to people in different occupations, just by nature of the size and maybe the location,
Right, the kind of thing that
the
they
kind
are.
of thing that they are.
For moving forward, what we did before, you've cited how we're marching down this path, is we did brainstorming, then we did a small group to go ahead and draft up something and bring it back. So that would be our next step. So now's the time to step forward and say, you're going to work on this.
Did you want to add more bedrooms in the residentials? Like
I
allow
think
more
if we're gonna
bedrooms,
be adding to the
possibly?
structure, the conversation about what you add would come up,
Okay.
but it could come up to add more bedrooms, yeah.
Let's face it, if we're adding bedrooms, then they would have to be qualified either on the sewer or denitrification. We're not gonna vote for
Yeah.
going backwards on that issue.
Right.
So, right?
Right.
That's kind of an understood thing. We get hung. It wouldn't go anywhere if we started doing that.
Right.
Okay, so let's, I have something that I'm keeping in mind that might seem not like I should be. Pat's husband's in the hospital, she's anxious to get back up there. So we're just, if you could volunteer now to work on this.
I will volunteer.
Okay, Jim,
Yeah, I'll work with Jim.
Bob?
I missed your whole
Anyone else?
intro.
Hmm?
I didn't hear your,
Oh, we're forming a
Subcommittee
subcommittee.
to move this forward.
okay,
Yes, you're gonna work on this?
I would work on it.
Okay, and Pam. Great, and maybe, what'll it take you, like a month and a half?
We could stretch it out to a year or two.
No, you could, I'd like you not to.
Why don't we not put a time limit on it as yet?
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
Let's just get it
Yeah,
done.
but let's get going on it. Okay, we've had,
But I've got a question to
yeah.
ask, because it kind of came up when Bobby was here doing that presentation of, it's sort of like this. I'm tired, understandably so, so I'm not remembering her last name, but it was some kind of a legal thing that you put in for, and builders usually build up from the beginning, and they get some help financially, and it's for affordability. It was on our agenda, she gave a presentation to us.
Oh,
know
the
what you're
pro-
What I'm talking
but,
about,
yeah.
and I'm stumbling around tonight. And this, I had asked whether something like this could be incorporated, and she kind of thought no, that most of the people who were doing that wanted to build from new.
Are you talking about the project-based program?
That's
that
it,
she had?
thank you.
Yep,
I couldn't remember what it was called.
yeah. Yeah,
that's different.
Yeah, I know, but I wondered if somehow at that time that it could somehow be worked into this too, and I don't know. At the time, it was thought maybe it can't, but I'd hate to just drop it and think it can't be.
We'd have to spend a little bit more time
would.
understanding that program, but yeah, we can certainly look into that and see how the two might interact.
It's just a big might.
Okay.
But when we're trying to leave no stone unturned with getting more housing here, it just really occurred to me that that might be something that could somehow work with this, with conversion.
Potentially, I'll put the project
Potentially.
date, yeah. Okay, and I'll send
It's,
around
it's
the little-
probably a big no that it can't, but especially when we're talking about maybe you can add on a
Project-based
little bit.
housing? Project-based what?
I think it was called their project-based program.
Program, yeah.
And I think, again, limited understanding of the system is that a developer can apply to the Affordable Housing Authority, the Housing Authority, for some of their units to be considered for vouchers, I believe. So their units would be included in the Housing Authority's portfolio, if that's the right term. And therefore, that unit would be part of an affordable unit that they would receive a subsidy, or at least the tenant would receive a subsidy to pay, or to help pay for the rent. But that, again, that's my limited
They
understanding.
didn't seem to need a zoning change for what they were up to. That was a funding mechanism.
I also thought it was, part of it was that the builder would get something like 25% of his cost.
Yeah, it's a funding
Kicked
thing,
in.
it's not a zoning thing.
But see, when we're talking about maybe with these older houses, we can add on. That's
Tailor
what
it so
brought
that
it,
fits in.
that's what brought it
Well,
up.
we would
Yeah.
first have to agree we're going to make an affordable component to even go down this road.
And I don't know that it'll fit.
I don't know
So
either,
long as
but
we're
we should talk
exploring all
about it.
kinds of things.
Keep it open
Hey.
while we're starting, keep it open.
Okay, Pam and Jim are gonna duke that one out.
Yeah, we will.
on their subcommittee. They'll have a good time. I hope there's drinking involved. So, we have another discussion item that you also brought up
Yeah,
on the regulations. I think you wanted to
yeah,
caution us.
this is really serious. And I know it doesn't seem like it, but I want to, there's a package that was sent to us where it has, had it out earlier. This isn't everybody's package. This is what I was talking about, that we talk about our bylaws, and we've kind of truncated that and just talked about 240. But I live by the Code of Falmouth, and I think there's some things going on. Code of Falmouth starts from 1 to 300 and something, I don't know where it ends. It keeps going. And for me, it has been available online for years, and I just type in Code of Falmouth, and I can Google it, and I can search it by anything, I can find it really fast. It's been really good. But since we've been working on the Section 240, updates to the Code of Falmouth have stopped being submitted to the town clerk. And the code requires, one of the things of the code requires that as soon as it's passed by the Attorney General, that the new code is submitted to the town clerk, and it's put into the new code of Falmouth, and it's made accessible to everybody in town. And that stopped. We've stopped doing that. So my number one research I don't use the book, I use the computer, typing in Code of Falmouth. It stopped getting updated a couple of years ago. But I believe by law we have to. And I think I pointed out, I quoted, it's 27. I think it's Code of Falmouth 27:1. I don't want to really get into the numbers.
Sure.
But I believe if you read it, it says must. It uses words like must and shall.
Yep.
Not can and may. Okay, so I think it's a law that we have to do.
And we plan to.
Right. And that's one thing. And there's another one that's really hard, because I know this group has been getting off this for a long time. But I got to read it to you, and you got to listen. This is Code of Falmouth, Section 300-2. Okay? And this is...
Jim, do we have that?
It was in your package, it was in it was emailed to me, and I had time to check it, but this is the whole point I've been trying to make. I'm sorry I couldn't be here last week, we had a fundraiser, but I've been trying to make this point for a while. I've sent Charlotte a few things. But listen to this.
The cover page looks like this. It's chapter 300.
Chapter 300-2, Jim, is that where you are?
Yes,
Oh,
so this, I'm going to read it to you, okay?
Under special permits?
Yes.
Okay.
This is part of our Code of Falmouth. Any person who submits an application for a special permit shall file with the planning board all items in subsection B1 through B4. Any submission which omits any of these items will not be accepted. That means we won't even meet for them. And what we've been doing is, we've been allowing applicants to come in with plans that are substandard and ask for alterations, and can I do this because it's a really good trend and I want to help these people out, or I'm a nice person and I'm really good. But if I read this, we're not allowed to do that.
They can file, as long as they have plans. This says, an application, a certified abutters list, 3 copies of a site plan as specified in Article 3 of these regulations, and then a filing fee. So then you have to go to the Article 3 of the regulations, which is site plan requirements.
But the part I just read, A says they must, as part of their
They must-
application.
That.
Right, which, one of those things is a site plan. And then if you read the definition, then this is where I take it to the next step. You read the definition of a site plan. And the definition of a site plan, if it says it must meet the land court standards. And there's a very long list of land court standards. And it talks about that there has to be a title search, checking all the easements within the last few years to prevent conflicts from property owners describing who has easements over what. It's all spelled out, and it needs to be done. And we allow people to come into our meetings without this plan, and they start applying for waivers that we don't want to do it. And in my position, I'm thinking they shouldn't even come to the table unless they've done that survey to the land court standards.
And it does require that they be complete.
And complete. And that's because what happens is, as soon as you let them in the room, and we start talking about, oh, they're really nice people, why don't we give them a waiver? They don't really need, why don't we just use the old plan from the other applicant? And we start giving waivers, and we get down, and I think,
You should anchor this in the one that set you off?
I thought I was gonna leave that alone.
No, I
Yeah,
just-
this is
makes
what,
it more
I
real
sat
to
in the
people.
next room where this came to light to me, was I had to recuse myself from a meeting on Main Street that I was intensely familiar with. And I heard this group start talking about, well, we don't have to care about that easement, it doesn't really mean anything, or we don't really need to do that. This group was getting to waive all kinds of things, and applicant submitted a plan that showed drawings from a previous plan that wasn't even part of the applicant. You could see it right through the drawings. You know, they had just taken an old plan to be in a hurry, and they overlaid it over another plan that had table seatings that wasn't even part of their application, but you could see it through the drawing. And they said, oh, we want to do this to save money. And we allowed them.
Why?
I don't know, I was kicking myself, I was screaming, if you could have heard.
Okay,
I don't
now-
recall that.
No.
Now the planning department is going to speak.
I don't recall that. particular component of it, but if you're referring to the easement that was shown on that plan, the reason that we showed or had them show that easement so that they could create the parking outside of that easement.
I'm referring to that actually showed in fine print underneath the drawing, the previous applied for building. That wasn't even part of the application.
That wasn't the plan that was submitted. That was just supplemental information, so we saw where the easement was.
Well, it sure looked like to everybody else, and I heard the lawyer go on to say the previous approved plan 10
I
times.
understand
And
what
that
you
plan
meant.
was never approved.
So what he was referring to at the time was the diagram that was included in the reciprocal easement agreement between the two parties. He was referring to it as the previously approved site plan, which your body approved a site plan review of that previous proposal. My understanding is that then that applicant went to the ZBA, but things fell apart. ZBA never issued a special permit. That project went away, but that diagram remained in that agreement, and that's what the attorney was referring to.
But that's the plan he submitted to this group as the new site plan, though.
No, he did
it's
not.
I thought they waived,
No.
okay. Well, anyways, I also heard the other attorneys talking about, well, we don't really need to do site plan review or drainage. Anecdotally, I think everything's okay. And my understanding is the land court language makes it clear that you have to do it every time, that things change. And and we don't have the right to waive it. And that's really what I'm getting at. Is that the main point I'm trying to make here is that I thought it was very, very clear if you read the requirements for the land court. They're pretty extensive.
Let's look at the waiver provision, because there is one. Okay, this is also in a document that Melinda sent to us, site plan review, 240-3, waive requirements. The board may waive by an affirmative majority vote any of the 240-12-2 requirements if it believes that strict compliance with these rules and regulations will, because of the size or special nature of the proposed development, create an undue hardship on the applicant and not be in the public interest.
I'm talking to not 12.2, I'm talking to 300.2. 300, actually, I think it goes out to 315 is what I'm particularly replying to. Nothing to do with the other code.
This is about site plan review that you're talking about.
Yeah, I know, but I'm particularly talking about, I think it's 300-15,
And
not
I
240.
think that what we should do, considering neither you nor I is a lawyer, that we should refer this apparent discrepancy between the two codes to the planning department, and they can find out which obtains.
So just be clear, what I'm talking about is 300-15,
Okay?
not anything to do with
I'm
240.
watching, what I'm saying, 240 appears to be in conflict with that, and I think that we ought to find out which rules.
Yeah, so that was part of the conversation that we had with the zoning bylaw recodification. We're trying not to call it the recodification working group because we're technically not working on recodification anymore. It is now, we're working on zoning amendments. And so therefore, the zoning bylaw, we're going to call it the working group for the zoning bylaw, that phase 2 part of recodification. Sorry, that's confusing. We brought up that topic of site plan review for this very topic because the waiver provision in your zoning bylaw appears to grant the ability of the board to waive any of the requirements of site plan review. And that can include the plan contents, the application materials, etc. So
The drainage requirements.
But it doesn't, it references a 240 section site plan review, not 300.
That's
correct.
what we're
15.
saying. They're in
Correct.
conflict with one another, so we want it straightened out.
So we wanted to try to bring
This
site
is
plan.
my whole point. Remember, Charlotte, I wrote to you once, it looks like we're looking at two different sets of rules.
Right.
Yes, but they're both Falmouth rules.
I know, but that's what
And they don't agree with one another.
I know. That's what, I think that's really what I'm getting at, as I've been reliant on reading the Code of Falmouth and doing all the rules, and our board's been looking at 240, and I actually thought we're speaking a different language, and I think we are. Something needs to be corrected.
Right, so we just need to bring those two things together and make sure that they're consistent.
Yeah.
Also, Jed and I have been going through new applications with a fine tooth comb through each one of the requirements since you brought it up.
Yep.
Because we're both somewhat new still at this.
Yep.
And engineers and architects, engineers, whatever, they all are used to filing with us, and maybe some things have been lax in the past. So we have started to be less,
Tighten it up.
yeah. I'm having a hard
You
time
remember
saying.
the
must
two
not like
Bobs?
that at all.
Probably not.
The two Bobs, the little group, the working group met with the two Bobs this past week, I think it was.
It was.
Seems longer ago, this past week, and started going through what are we going to be working on, and what, in what order are we going to be working on them. And site plan review is one of the things that need to be worked on, and Bob Mitchell's comment was that ours is really an outlier among site plan review bylaws, that there's a lot there that could, that needs to be looked at carefully. So it will be.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you.
Well, it's really, I guess that's the issue I've been having. I was wondering what was going on, because for a couple of months, I felt like I was reading something else different than everybody else, and then I actually found it's there.
It's just
and
two
it
different
just
books.
Well, we were stopping at a discussion at 240, and I was going all the way to 300.
Yeah,
And they're all bylaws.
okay.
So
We've
as
taken it
part,
in.
just so the board's aware, as part of this or this working group effort to make these zoning bylaw amendments, we will also be bringing to you suggested amendments to our rules and regulations, which does not require town meeting approval. That can be just at a hearing of the board. So we have a list of items that we've already identified, but we're going to wait for some of those amendments for the zoning bylaw to occur, and then we'll update our rules and regulations.
Right.
So we've
And
got a
we're
lot of work
ongoing.
for you.
And the hope is we don't get in the same position that we were in, where we haven't done it in a long time and it needs a complete overhaul. But
Right.
we'll see how that goes.
Just a quick question. We are in agreement, though, that 27-1 is still going to be, we're going to stay with that. We're not going to stop doing that.
Absolutely, yep.
So for those that you don't know the numbers, I don't like to use numbers because it basically says, as soon as the Attorney General changes a bylaw, we issue something to the town clerk, and he immediately changes the code of Falmouth.
Well, we need to update our website too, because
Yep.
the Attorney General's notice isn't on the website. The website, the Planning Board Department's website needs to be moved up. Do you have to go all the way to the IT guy to do that, or can
No.
you do it?
Yep.
Great, okay, that's great.
I want to just clarify, it says more than just, though, the Attorney General. I believe it also says, as soon as we start using the code on a regular basis, then it must be updated. Not shall, must be updated. And when we start to use it, even if it's approved by the Attorney General, but I think it's, 27 is the number that it starts with, and it talks about keeping things up to date.
Yep.
As long as we do that, then I'm comfortable, because I really rely on the computer
Sure.
more than these books and pages, because I can say, type in, it gives me what I want.
Faster.
Right, but please, this is really inconvenienced here, yes?
Melinda brought up something, this is so true, that a pattern over the years has existed, that we haven't been paying particular attention, and the people, the attorneys, the engineers who come in here don't pay particular attention. So we can't just toughen up and then say, you didn't do this. We need to inform them as we
We've
go
started
along.
to.
Yep.
You have?
Yep.
Okay, good. Because that would be unfair to expect them to come in as we're expecting them as we change, and then, nah, go away.
I wouldn't want us to create the impression in this conversation that somehow the planning board and the planning department has fallen into sloppy ways, because I don't think that's true. I really don't.
No, I just think we're new and we're learning.
There's a new sheriff in town.
It's not only that, it was that our old bylaw was such a patchwork.
Yeah.
Yes, well,
There's a
that's
lot
not-
of hidden
And
clauses.
I'm not applying that.
everywhere.
I've been on the board for a long time, and I had to reread everything to even catch this, okay?
Yeah,
It's not clear.
There's stuff that we
I
find
was-
all the time.
I was questioning why, I knew that something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't understand why we were talking about two different things. I had to spend a lot of time reading to find it.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not joking.
No, but I was having a problem with what
Okay.
we were doing, and I said, something's wrong, I have to figure it out.
We've gotten there now. I wanted to commend you also on your presentation last night about the Emerald House property.
Thank you,
That was a really nice presentation.
thank you.
Right. And I would suppose by the time they're actually going to build something, it would come here.
You were
Well-
referring to Selectmen's meeting?
Mm-hmm. What
Board
is
of
this
Select
one?
meeting?
Last night, yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know, the town owns 2 pieces of land just south of the East Falmouth Elementary School on Davisville Road. Back approximately 3 years ago, there was a plan to create a all-inclusive, multi-generational play space on the southern parcel of land. And on the northern parcel exists the historic Emerald House and the community gardens. Then COVID happened, and then we fell into this affordable housing crisis. And now the housing coordinator and myself, as well as Melinda and others in our department, are working on creating a multiple use scenario on those 2 parcels. One being affordable housing, and then the other being the play space, Emerald House, and the community gardens. So last night, we presented that scheme to the select board. They authorized us to move forward into our civic engagement program, which is going to be hitting just about every committee that we can think of to present that information to, and then bring it all to a public meeting, I believe in May, and then bring all that information back to the select board so that they can think about issuing an RFP for the affordable housing.
Seeking a developer.
Correct.
What zoning law are you gonna use to, it's single-family zone now, right?
So
So we're gonna rezone it, do a
No.
40B, what are you gonna do?
it's anticipated to be a 40B
40B,
project.
okay.
Yep.
That you're gonna use the 40B thing. I was wondering the vehicle that you're gonna use, yeah.
Yep. And
That's
then,
good. I was
It's
just,
very good.
I'm just saying, we just can't make up a new bylaw.
yeah, well,
That sounds terrific.
this board could.
Well, you can't do it as quickly as you were just saying.
No, definitely
You couldn't
not.
do it in 2 weeks and get it, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
how the hell can this happen? It's 40B.
Paul?
My understanding, the Emerald House is now the Cape Verde Museum.
It is.
Is that a long-term lease, or is that,
I don't know. But the plan is to leave them right where they are, not touch the community gardens, to try to preserve what's there, right there, and then build around it. So, we're excited.
Okay, I have, are there any further announcements? I have a little announcement. I will be missing on April 11th, sorry.
missing?
Missing, I'm going to Japan.
Can,
Yes.
I just want to make one comment. I read through a lot of this information that was sent out to us, and one of the more important things I noticed is that they're saying we don't need a 2/3 vote of town meeting to pass some of these
Yeah,
bylaw
the
amendments.
comments picked up where we had failed to update to new laws, but they were minor and they weren't going to disapprove over that.
That's a big deal.
Yeah,
It was
is
a
big
year or
deal.
2 ago, the state passed that law.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Housing-related initiatives
It was
do not
undertaken
require
about a year and a
2/3
half
vote.
ago. Yep.
Well, the way it's written, it doesn't limit it to housing, I don't think.
Just requires a simple.
Well, we've already
majority.
used it, Paul.
The way
It was
the
about
Attorney
housing.
General wrote it,
Yeah,
you're right, they weren't clear on exactly what that meant.
it made it
but
sound like anyone.
No,
That's what
it's,
I
it's
thought.
That's what I thought when I read it.
No,
But that's how Mr. Cod passed.
correct. So
We
it's,
didn't go 2/3, we got a majority.
correct.
That's all we needed.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Again, it's housing-related zoning.
Yeah.
Simple majority. Everything else,
Did not say
2/3.
that in
I know.
the decision.
I know.
And she's written a lot of those for many other communities in the Commonwealth.
She also made reference, I'm not sure if you noticed, not to belabor the point, but she also made reference to a recently approved Mass General Law 80, I'm sorry,
About marijuana?
no, the starter home. General Law, Chapter 40Y, which is the starter home zoning districts. Yeah, it, to my knowledge, it just passed in January. And so, without getting the details incorrectly, I'm just going to sort of preface that, but it's essentially to create an incentive for developers to start building what was once built in the 70s. Smaller homes, 1,800 square feet or less, smaller lots. There's some incentives for developers because they would not have a profit limitation. But the idea is to sort of thread the needle between, my understanding anyway, the 40R and the 40B process to, instead of doing, high density or forcing affordable housing, it's create an incentive program. So it's interesting that she just referenced that in the letter. So,
We'll have to
We're-
Google it and find out about it.
yeah, we're going to work on
So
some,
this is
I didn't know
another
anything
state
about
law.
it.
yeah, just
It's in
recently
the
passed.
40, it's one of the 40, like 40B, 40, it's
40Y is
Boy,
called.
why?
Yeah,
YZ.
yeah.
How do you keep up with these changes, though?
You read a lot.
Well, but beyond that, though, does every time a twitch happens in the state law, we have to re-twitch our
That's what it's
bylaws?
like. Right, they're in charge.
And we haven't done that. And that's why we were running into a lot of,
And we don't have a choice. We have, those are things we have.
I understand, but who's gonna just go, okay, we gotta do this, we gotta do this.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah, our department.
yeah,
Yeah.
but then you've gotta inform us, it's gotta
Correct.
be taken to town meeting for a change in our bylaw.
Yeah. So,
They don't have
No,
to
no, we're
audit
not,
the
if the state law
does.
changes, we don't go to town meeting. We just,
Well-
we just publish it.
I know very little about 40Y. I don't know what
I've
it
never
says.
even heard of it before.
Exactly. I just found out about it the other day, so, we don't know exactly what it means yet, but we'll find out. We'll bring it to you.
But when the state law changes, if we just change our bylaw, then what do? Send out a blast to everybody who comes in to us for anything?
No, you probably have
Only-
to publish it. We probably
it's
have to
their law,
publish
they
I
it.
mean, I thought we dealt, actually, remember it was just announced when we were doing Mr. Cod that we no longer needed the two-thirds vote. There wasn't any voting on it or changing. It was just said, this is the new rule. And we all had to go by it. It wasn't,
Simple majority.
no discussion, done.
But if it's in our bylaw that you need to, then we've got to change that.
Right.
And the town voted the bylaw, so do we, that's my
I
point.
see what you
How do
mean,
we
but
do
it's
it?
moot anyways. Somebody could apply around our bylaw, say your bylaw's out of date and get it.
I understand
Make
that.
a motion.
Do you have a good motion for us?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.